Without further ado, I will introduce our next speaker for the Youth-A-Thon. So Nicole Kingsman is a student pursuing a bachelor's degree in geography at the University of Boué, Cameroon. Through networking and active collaboration efforts, Kingsman has been able to reach out to more than 1,000 young people in his community. He hosts lectures, workshops, school visits, and other events to share how community members can refine their behaviour towards the environment. Kingsman places particular interest on the issues of plastic pollution in his community. Over 2 years, he was able to organise several cleanup campaigns with friends and family, where volunteers collected more than 10,000 plastic bottles from the street and local stream. Kingsman enjoys photography, music, graphic design, and drawing, and he intends to use these skills to amplify his efforts. And today, Kingsman will be speaking about plastic pollution and the role of youth. So over to you, Kingsman.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be on this session. Personally, I'm called Kingsman. I'm from Cameroon, and I'm a student, and I'm a plastic pollution activist. So I'm very happy that they have me on this session. So I'll try to make it very brief so that I won't bore you with a lot of information and stuff. So now back to what I'm talking about, which is plastic pollution and the role of youths. Now in our world today, we realize that young people play a very important role in addressing a lot of issues ranging from climate change to political issues and quite a lot. So plastic pollution is not an exception, and I've seen this personally in my own endeavors as a young person. So actually, my journey into combating plastic pollution began about 2 years ago, 3 years ago rather. So 3 years ago, and I was in this town, in one of the major towns in our country, which is Douala. And I happened to, like, one day I was taking a tour with a friend, and we got by this river, this stream. You had quite a lot of plastic bottles in it, and it was quite a concern to me. That's when my passion to deal with plastic pollution actually started. So I'm just trying to share this experience so that a lot of people can actually learn, because maybe when I share my experience, a lot of us will be able to relate with it and will know how to take action. So as I immediately saw this, I realized I needed to actually do something about it. So, but the problem was I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to go about it. So the next step I had to take was to get in contact with some friends and try to see how to network to be able to understand the problem very well. Because the first thing is, it's not about you identifying the problem, but it's about how you go about to solve the problem. That's very, very important. It's not just about identifying the problem, because, for example, plastic pollution is a major problem and everybody knows that. But how do you go about solving it? How do you go about bringing solutions to it? So that's when my whole journey began in this particular issue of plastic pollution. And that's why they are kind of like, they don't know how to go about it. So that's why I was very, very interested in the topic plastic pollution and how young people can bring solutions to it. So if I don't know if maybe one of the hosts can, maybe I have some pictures, if they could just show them on the screen while as I'm speaking. There's one picture there where.
Give me 1 second. I'm pulling up the pictures right now. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. So as I was saying, I think you get a view of this picture, and it's really disturbing, because the people are quite affected. People in the communities are affected, but they don't know how to go about it to bring solutions. And young people are affected. Young people feel concerned once they go on social media and they're exposed to a lot of channels where they get a lot of information, but there's usually a problem on how to be able to get engaged. That's where the problem starts. How can we get engaged? Because identifying the problem is one thing, and getting engaged to solving it is another issue. So I think, okay, okay. Now, can I have the picture of, I think, a stream with plastic full of plastic bottles? There's a picture with a stream full of plastic bottles. Could I have that on the screen, please?
Can everybody see
No,
my screen?
this is the Okay, great. This is the picture. So now this picture, I immediately I saw this scenario. It was quite aching. It was aching, and I was like, what can we do about this? How can we solve this problem? Because a lot of us are exposed to these issues. Maybe some of you are not really exposed to it the way some of us are, but where we come from, you go everywhere, you find plastic bottles, everything has to do with plastic. So we get concerned. How do we deal with this? If this problem continues for the next 5 years, how will we survive? How will we survive? That's where we therefore had to take action. That's where I therefore had to take action. So that's why I was saying it's easy to identify the problem. For example, like plastic pollution. If you are in this area, you'll be very concerned. But being concerned does not just solve the problem. We have to take action. We have to take action, and that has to be done as fast as possible. So the next picture I would like to be on the screen. There's a picture where I am with some young people, and young people are they are picking some plastic bottles. I think I would like to have that on the screen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So there is one of those pictures I'd like to have on the screen, please.
Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. Okay. Now this is one of the pictures. Now, after identifying this problem, now I had to, what do I do about it? What do I do about it? And that's the question that quite a lot of us are asking. Now, we identify the problem, for example, like dealing with plastic pollution. We all identify the problem, but how do we go about it? How do we go about solving this problem? This big issue that we see that people are suffering from it. How do we go about solving it? So that's when I had to get in contact with some friends. So I had to get in contact with some friends. I got in contact with some young people around the world that are actually working on the issue of plastic pollution. And once I got to them, it made the job easy for me because they were already in the field. They were already working. I had a friend of mine who was already versed with the issue. He already knew what the issue was all about, and he was working on it. So that was a milestone for me. And immediately I had to talk with him. I had to talk with quite some others. And that was when the journey, everything became clear to me. I understood how the problem was and what the problem was, where the problem was coming from. And from there, I was able to engage. So now looking at this picture, you realize these young people in the community. Now, and how did we get this done? We had to organize ourselves. I had to get to some of my friends. This picture was taken in 2018. And we came together and we organized this great cleanup campaign. And it was we organized it in the form of a contest, and young people had to bring in plastic bottles. They were registered, brought in plastic bottles, and they were given, at the end of the day, they were given some prize like books and bags, school bags, to help them in their education and to be some sort of motivation to them. And it was really great. Now, if there is one picture where you have a whole pile of plastic bottles tied up in the net, I think if you can have that on, it will really be great. If you can have that on, it will really be great. So we had to organize these young people. We brought them together and we shared the idea with them, shared the idea with some friends, shared the idea with families. And that's when it all starts. Because after doing that, you are supposed to patronize the idea. You are supposed to patronize the idea. You are supposed to see it as a problem. So once we see it as a problem, we'll be able to know how to get friends engaged, how to say, okay, please don't throw plastic bottles, please don't do this, please don't do that. We'll know how to get everyone engaged. We'll know how to get everyone engaged. Because the first thing is, once you see the problem and you realize there is a problem and you don't do any effort, you don't there is no effort that you consciously make to be able to solve it, that's where it becomes bad. Because once you start telling people stop waste, stop throwing plastic bottles in the streets and all of that, they are watching at you and they are expecting to learn from you. So little things like that do matter. They are watching at you. So it, for me, it just began like a concern, but I never knew that it was it demanded, there was a great weight of responsibility on me. So once I started giving that message out, please don't throw plastic waste on the streets. So everybody was looking at me. My friends, they had an eye on me. So I was very, very careful the way I dealt with waste in the whole, and to be precise, plastic. I was very careful the way I dealt with that. So I took the message from being a personal message to taking it to friends and to family. So once we are able to understand the problem, that's the first thing. Understand the problem, understand how it works in your individual community. Because the way plastic pollution in Cameroon is the same way it works in the United States or in Europe. It's not the same way, it's quite different. So understand how the problem is in your local community and know how the people reason to be able to deal with it. I think that's quite important. Leave out solution. That's important. Leaving out the solution. So your friends are seeing that you are bringing a solution to it. Your family is seeing it. Then you can transmit the message to friends and to family. Yeah, then you can transmit the message to friends and to family. And once you get to that step, then you are able to push forward. So with that said, connecting with friends, connecting with family, I think maybe if you can have other pictures on the screen for a further explanation. There's a picture where we have a whole pile of plastic bottles, just the plastic bottles tied up in some nets. I think if you can have that on, it's very important. So as I rightly said, solving this, because I think after this campaign, there was no recycling company available to be able to come collect the plastic. So they were left in our family yard for about a period of about 8 months. Yeah, about 8 months or getting to a year, I guess. So if I'm not mistaken. So they those bottles kind of like they stayed there for a very long time. So I have a friend of mine, he got to another friend, and we're like, okay, why not take these bottles? We contacted a guy in one of the towns in our country, which is Douala. And once we got to him, he transforms plastic bottles into boats. He transforms plastic bottles into boat. I think that will be on the screen pretty soon. He transforms plastic bottles into boats. So we had to travel with those bottles for a very long journey. We traveled with them and we got there and we had to manufacture these boats with it. Okay. Now the bottles had to stay here for about 8 months. They stayed here for about 8 months. I think the other picture will be available of the boat, the boat in plastic bottles. So we had to get to them. So networking is very, very important. Connecting with other people is very, very important, because just being alone will not help you. Being alone, you cannot handle the problem alone. You cannot handle it alone. It's a whole system. So getting in contact with other people, getting in contact with people in the system, because this fight helped me to get in contact with recycling companies, get in contact with government agencies, get in contact with schools. We had to organize school visits. We had to organize workshops. Okay, yeah, I am in the red with a friend of mine collecting the plastic bottles. We had to organize workshops. Okay, this is one other. Okay, this is when we're taking those bottles to the nearby town. So it really takes passion. If you are not really committed to what you're doing, you cannot succeed in solving the problem. You can find young people getting engaged. So once you do that, make sure you create the necessary networks. Make sure you belong to the necessary networks. And I think in my journey, being a part of World Oceans Day, being an ambassador for World Oceans Day Youth Advisory Council has really been helpful to me. Has really been helpful to me. Once I saw the opportunity, I grabbed the opportunity and I used it, and it has been a very, very exciting journey from 2018 up to date. It has been a very, very exciting journey. So connecting with people is very important. Get in contact with friends, get in contact with schools, get in contact with government agencies, get in contact with every single person that will help you in solving the problem. So there's quite a lot to be said. So I think maybe I will try to address more. If there are some questions, maybe getting some questions will help to be able to expatiate on some of the points that I've said. Maybe someone has a question in regards to some of the points I said, or in regards to the work. I think that would be great. I would really be happy answering some questions.
Is what kind of got you into the ocean in general? I know the plastic pollution issue is obviously something that impacts your local community, but were you interested in the environment and the ocean before you got involved with plastics?
Okay, I think that's really a great question. I must say it's really a great question. Now, firstly, I must say I spent most of my time in nature. I spent most of my time in nature from when I was very young. I would take some during during holidays. During holidays, I would take some time, and most of my time was in the wild. Most of my time was in the wild with my family. I would be like 3 months out of network, out of no internet, no nothing like that. So that's how I grew up. That's how I grew up. So coming to town and realizing this problem, it's I just should I say I just had a love for the environment. I just had love for nature, but I didn't really see like there was a problem that needed my attention. So I didn't really see that there was a problem that needed my attention, but immediately I got this because plastic pollution has been one of my major drives. So immediately I saw this, it was like, wow, the environment I'm so concerned about, something is definitely wrong, and I need to intervene. I need to do something about it. So immediately I saw that problem. That's when quite a lot of issues came to me. I had to see a lot of issues, and that's when I even developed a strong passion for the ocean and for most of the work that I do. So it all started from there. It all started with identifying, with seeing that particular problem.
Yeah, it's really amazing to hear you speak. You have such conviction in your voice. It's very clear that this is something that you're extremely passionate about, and it's very contagious. It's awesome. And I was wondering, does the Cameroon government have any initiatives going on right now to help tackle the plastic pollution problem?
Okay. Like many other developing countries, the environment, though I must say, though they try to do something about it, but the what we actually expect, the degree of attention, it's quite low. The degree of attention is quite low. For example, I showed you a whole pile of plastic bottles that stayed in our personal yard, in my father's yard, for a period of about 8 months. So if it were in a place where the government is too concerned, they would have taken care of that. We had to visit the regional delegation of environment. We had to visit some local recycling companies, but no one was willing to come collect those bottles. No one was willing. So the government does quite little to solve it. It's quite little.
Are there any tangible action steps that you or members of your community are taking or are able to take to potentially urge your government to do more? Or is it more of a community grassroots movement in your area?
Okay. Like as I said, that's why I said each and everyone should be able to understand how it all works out in their community, because maybe in other parts of the world, maybe people can put pressure on the government, like look at this a problem. We need to act. We need to do something about it. But where I come from, the government doesn't just act that way. So you need to get connected, but to the local community members, those who are actually affected by the problem. Because trying to put pressure on the government or depending on the government to solve the problem, I think you will take quite a very long time to do that. That will almost be impossible. It will be a very long time to do that. So here, I think what works out more is engaging the people, those who actually suffer from the problem, make them to understand what are the negative consequences of what they are doing in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, and how would that affect their own livelihood. Once they get an understanding of that, I bet you they will be the ones to be engaged. So it's important to be able to understand how it all works out for you, how it works out in your community, how it works out, how the government, how everything works out. Once you understand that, then you'll be able to bring out the solution.
Thank you so much, Kingsman. This has been an awesome presentation. We are a little early on time. If there's anything else you would like to add, if plastic pollution is a very big issue, and there's a lot of different smaller issues that kind of fall under the umbrella of plastic pollution. Like, we had a session earlier that talked about impacts on human health and the environment of microplastics. So, if there's anything you want to add, if the attendees have any questions for you, definitely feel free to send those questions in the chat. But make sure that you send that YouTube link. I'm going to send that in the chat right now so we can make sure that we have people on there. But yes, this has been an awesome presentation. Kingsman, if you have anything to add, I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So I must stress on the fact that I know quite a lot of people will be listening to me, and I know quite a lot of people will be following our presentations. And I must say that it's very important to belong to a network that engages young people. That is very, very important. It will help each and every one of us in our journey. It is very, very important. Belonging to a network will help you, will be able to help grant you some necessary connections, some people, technical advice, everything. It's very, very important. I think if you belong to a network that helps you out, then you'll be able to solve the problem. Even if you don't have a full knowledge of the problem, once it starts, even if you don't have a knowledge of it, but belong to a network, get engaged with young people who understand the problem better than you. Once you do that, you definitely start finding solutions. You start getting ideas. But walking alone would not help you. I think that point is important, which I needed to add. I must say, the journey to bringing solutions to most of the problems that we face, it will begin with just a simple step. You might not understand the entire problem once you begin your journey. Like, you might not be able to fully grasp, because, for example, like when I started, there were a lot of terminologies I was not used to. There were a lot of things I was not quite comfortable with. I didn't know a lot. So you will not be able to understand the entire problem, but going gradually, connecting with other people will help you in your journey. So maybe before I close my own section, I don't know if there were any questions at all, which or some comments which I'll be happy to answer to.
We have a question in the chat from AJ. Can you explain a little bit more about how you turn the plastic bottles into boats? Yeah, that's a great question, AJ. Thank you for sending that in. What does that process look like? Do you kind of break down the bottles first, or do you build it with the bottles intact? Do you fill the bottles with anything? How does that process work?
Okay. Now, while I answer the question, I think there's a picture there's a picture there's a picture of me sitting in on one of the plastic boats, and there is another one, I think, where we are walking on the boat. I think so this is what actually happened. As I said, after organizing this great event, where we had young people who brought about 400 bottles. Some brought about 500, some brought 200, some brought 300, some brought. So we had all these bottles together. We had them together, and there was nothing to do about it. Really, nothing to do about it. And those bottles stayed in the yard for a very long time, and nothing was being done. We tried to get to the local agencies to help us out, but no one was willing to help. So from there, we had to contact a guy in one of our towns in Douala, who actually transforms these plastic bottles into boats. So we actually transported these bottles there. We traveled with them. It was quite a very stressful journey. We traveled with them, and once we got with them, we were not actually filling them. We had some we had to tie them with ropes, though the process is quite safe. I think if you check him out, Madiba for Nature, that's his name on social media, you would really find that out. And I might provide some more information. So anybody who wants some information, you can just get on to me and I'll be able to provide you more information. So that's how everything was done. So we just had to, maybe you bring up the bottles together, you get to tie them together. And it's not really difficult per se. It's not really difficult. And that's how we went through it and we got the job done.
That's awesome, Kingsman. Do you have a link that you can send in the chat for people to follow through with that?
I'll try to get that out now. Let me see. So I'm having some little technical issues, but if anyone would like to get more information, maybe you can just check me out on any of the social media platforms, or maybe on WhatsApp if you care, and maybe I'll really be happy sharing the information with you. I think that would be great because I'm really facing some little technical issues now.
No worries, Kingsman. So yeah, definitely make sure everybody is following him on social media. If you go to our Instagram at Youth-A-Thon, that's youth_A_thon. We have Kingsman tagged in his post on there on the main feed and up in the story right now. So Kingsman, if you're all finished, we are finishing up with your session a little bit early, but that's okay if you're having technical difficulties.